The brass key felt unusually heavy in my palm as I stared at it, my mind racing with questions. I've been married to James for 15 years, and I thought I knew every key in our home, from the rusty shed key to the spare car key we kept in the kitchen drawer. But this one was different. I found it while packing James's lunch, like I did every morning. It had fallen from his jacket pocket as I was reaching for his favorite thermos. The key looked old, with intricate patterns etched into its head, definitely not a modern copy from the hardware store. "Honey, what's this?" I held up the key as James rushed through the kitchen, already late for work. He froze mid-stride, his face paling slightly. "Oh, that's nothing," he said too quickly. "Just an old key I found." "I'll take it." He snatched it from my hand, stuffing it back into his pocket. "But what's it for?" I pressed, noting how his shoulders tensed. "Really, Sarah, it's nothing important. I've got to run, big meeting today." He grabbed his lunch bag and kissed my cheek, but it felt distracted, automatic. Before I could ask anything else, he was gone, the sound of his car engine fading into the morning quiet. I stood in the kitchen, the half-empty coffee pot still warm, feeling like I'd missed something important. James had been acting strange lately, taking phone calls in the other room, working late more often, being evasive about his schedule. I tried to brush it off, to trust that whatever it was, he'd tell me when he was ready. But that key. Later that afternoon, I was folding laundry when I found the key again, this time in his other jacket pocket. My hands trembled slightly as I held it. 15 years of marriage, and James had never kept secrets from me. We built our life on trust, honesty, and open communication. Or at least I thought we had. I slipped the key into my pocket, telling myself I'd give it back to him that evening. But as I moved through the house, doing chores, my mind kept circling back to it. What was so important about this key that made my usually open husband so nervous? Around 5:30, James called. "Hey, honey, I'll be home a bit late tonight. Don't hold dinner for me." "Everything okay?" I asked, hearing the strain in his voice. "Yeah, just some things I need to take care of. Love you." He hung up before I could respond. I stood in our living room, phone in hand, the key feeling like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Something wasn't right. Making a decision, I grabbed my car keys. I'd never followed James before. The thought of spying on my husband made my stomach churn, but I needed to know what was going on. The GPS tracker on his phone, which we'd set up years ago in case of emergencies, showed him downtown in an area of old Victorian houses that had been converted into offices. I parked across the street, feeling like a character in some cheap thriller novel. James's car was there, parked in front of a pale blue Victorian with a for lease sign in the window. As I watched, he emerged from the building, locked the front door, and walked around to the back. My heart pounded as I waited a few minutes, then followed. The back of the house opened onto a small garden, now overgrown with weeds. A separate entrance led to what looked like a basement or storage area. I crept closer, grateful for the lengthening evening shadows. James was inside. I could hear movement through the partially open door. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out the key. The intricate pattern on its head suddenly made sense. It matched the vintage style of the house. "James," I called out softly, stepping into the dimly lit space. There was a crash, followed by muffled cursing. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" I squinted in the low light. James stood in the middle of the room, looking guilty and covered in paint. As my eyes adjusted, I began to make out shapes in the basement. Easels, canvases, art supplies scattered everywhere. I found the key again," I said, still trying to process what I was seeing. "James, what is all this?" He sighed, running a paint-stained hand through his hair. "This isn't how I wanted you to find out." He reached for a light switch, and fluorescent bulbs flickered to life, illuminating the space fully. My breath caught in my throat. The basement was transformed into an art studio, with paintings covering nearly every available surface. But these weren't just any paintings, they were memories. Our memories. Our first date at the pier, our honeymoon in Greece, the day we brought home our dog Max. Each canvas captured a moment from our life together, rendered in vibrant colors and loving detail. "I don't understand," I whispered, moving closer to examine a painting of us dancing at our wedding. "You did all these?" James shifted nervously, wiping his paint-covered hands on his once pristine work pants. "Remember when we took that couples art class last year? The one you dragged me to?" I nodded, still mesmerized by the paintings surrounding us. The art class had been my attempt to get us both out of our comfort zones, to try something new together. James had grumbled about it initially, claiming he couldn't even draw stick figures properly. Well, he continued, something just clicked. After the class ended, I couldn't stop thinking about painting. It was like this door opened in my mind and all these images kept pouring out. He gestured to the canvases. Every important moment we shared, every memory that made me fall more in love with you. I needed to capture them all. I moved from painting to painting, each one telling our story. There was the Christmas morning when Max had knocked over the tree trying to get to his presents. The time we got caught in that sudden rainstorm during our beach vacation. Even the quiet Sunday mornings when we'd read together on the porch, sharing coffee and comfortable silence. But why keep it a secret? I asked, turning to face him. Why not tell me? James's shoulders slumped slightly. At first, I was embarrassed. Me, the corporate numbers guy, suddenly wanting to be an artist? It seemed ridiculous. Then, as I kept practicing, I had this idea. He walked over to a covered canvas in the corner. I wanted to surprise you for our anniversary next month. With trembling hands, he pulled away the cloth, revealing a large, unfinished painting. My heart stopped. It was us. But not from a memory. This was something different. In the painting, we were older, sitting on our front porch surrounded by grandchildren. The detail was incredible. The laugh lines around our eyes, the gray in our hair, the peaceful contentment on our faces. It was a glimpse into our future, painted with such love and hope that tears welled up in my eyes. I've been working on this one for months, James said softly. I wanted it to be perfect. I rented this space because I knew I couldn't hide something this big at home. The key belonged to Mr. Peterson. You remember him? Our old neighbor who moved to Florida? He owns this building and let me use the basement for a reasonable rate. I reached out to touch the canvas gently, careful not to smudge the still drying paint. You can spending your evenings here, working on this. He nodded. And some lunch breaks. I pack extra clothes in my briefcase, come here to paint, then clean up before heading back to the office. The late meetings, the phone calls. It was all about arranging time to work on these without you finding out. That's why you've been so distracted lately, I whispered, the pieces falling into place. I trailed off, embarrassed by the doubts that had crept into my mind. James moved closer, wrapping his arms around me from behind, not caring that he was getting paint on my clothes. You thought what? That I was having an affair? His voice was gentle, understanding. Sarah, you're the love of my life. Every one of these paintings is a testament to that. I leaned back against him, taking in the room with new eyes. Each canvas was a declaration of love, a memory preserved not just in photographs or stories, but through his perspective, his emotions. The technical skill might not have been perfect. I could see where he struggled with proportions or perspective, but the feeling behind each piece was undeniable. The art class was your idea, he continued, just like so many other amazing things in our life. You're always pushing me to grow, to try new things, to be better. This is what you inspired. I turned in his arms, not caring about the paint now covering both of us. Show me more, I said. Tell me the story behind each one. James's face lit up with an enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years. He led me around the studio, explaining his process, sharing why he chose certain moments to capture. Some paintings made me laugh, others brought tears to my eyes, but each one showed me how deeply he saw and appreciated our life together. I was so focused on keeping this a surprise, he admitted, I didn't realize I was making you worry. I'm sorry for that. I squeezed his hand. I'm kind of glad I found the key, I said. Watching you talk about your art, seeing this passion you discovered, it's better than any surprise. James smiled sheepishly. Does this mean I need to come up with a new anniversary gift? I looked at the unfinished painting of our future together, feeling my heart swell with love and pride. No, I said softly. This is perfect. But maybe, I paused, an idea forming. Maybe we could work on it together. You could teach me what you've learned. His eyes lit up at the suggestion. Really? You want to? Of course. After all, I grinned, gesturing to the paint now covering both of us. I'm already getting my hands dirty. Over the next few weeks, the basement studio became our special place. After dinner, we drive downtown together, spending evenings surrounded by paint and possibilities. James taught me everything he'd learned about mixing colors, creating depth, and capturing light. I wasn't nearly as talented as he'd become, but watching him work, seeing the joy it brought him, was better than any masterpiece I could create. "Hold the brush like this," he'd say, standing behind me, guiding my hand. "See how the stroke changes." His patience was infinite, his enthusiasm infectious. This was a side of my husband I'd never seen before. Passionate, creative, completely uninhibited. We decided to keep the studio our secret for a while longer. It became our own private world, a space where we could leave behind the stresses of everyday life and just create. Sometimes we'd paint together. Other times, I'd bring a book and read while he worked, content to be in each other's presence. One evening, as James was putting the finishing touches on our future portrait, I noticed him frowning. "What's wrong?" I asked, moving closer to inspect the painting. "I keep trying to get your smile right," he said, brush hovering over the canvas. "It's the way you look when you're truly happy, like when you're reading a good book or playing with Max." I've seen it 1,000 times, but capturing it, he shook his head in frustration. I wrapped my arms around his waist, resting my chin on his shoulder. "Maybe because you're too busy painting to notice I'm wearing that exact smile right now." He turned to look at me, paintbrush still in hand. "You are, aren't you?" His eyes softened. "Being here, sharing this with you, it's better than I ever imagined." The anniversary party was set for Saturday night. We'd invited close family and friends for an intimate dinner at our house. James had been unusually calm about the whole thing, considering his big surprise was no longer a surprise. "I have something else planned," he'd say mysteriously whenever I asked about it. The evening of the party arrived and our house filled with loved ones. After dinner, James clinked his glass, getting everyone's attention. "If you'll all follow me," he said, "there's something Sarah and I would like to share with you." I looked at him surprised. We hadn't discussed revealing the studio to everyone. But as our guests piled into their cars to follow us downtown, I felt a flutter of excitement. The basement studio had been transformed. James had hung string lights around the room, and each painting was perfectly lit, arranged to tell our story chronologically. Our family and friends gasped as they entered, moving from canvas to canvas with wonder. "James," my sister whispered, "did you paint all these?" He squeezed my hand. I had an amazing inspiration. Our parents were emotional, seeing their own memories reflected through James's eyes. The wedding, family holidays, quiet moments they'd forgotten until seeing them captured in paint. "But this isn't the real surprise," James announced. He led everyone to a covered easel in the center of the room. "Sarah and I painted this one together." He pulled away the cloth, revealing not the future portrait I expected, but something entirely new. It was our basement studio, painted from multiple perspectives that somehow worked together. In one corner, James was teaching me to hold a brush. In another, I was reading while he painted. The center showed us both laughing, covered in paint after an accidental splatter war. "This is us now," James said softly, "not just remembering our past or dreaming about our future, but living in the present, creating new memories together." I felt tears rolling down my cheeks as our friends and family applauded. This wasn't just about art anymore. It was about growth, trust, and the beautiful surprises that can still emerge after 15 years of marriage. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and we were cleaning up the studio, I found the old brass key that had started it all. "Should we make a copy?" I asked, holding it up. "Since we're sharing the studio now." James smiled, pulling something from his pocket, a small velvet box. Inside was a new key, just as ornate as the first, attached to a delicate silver chain. "Already taken care of," he said, fastening the necklace around my neck. "Now you'll always have the key to my heart and the studio." I laughed through happy tears, touching the key where it rested against my collarbone. "Who knew you were such a romantic artist at heart?" "You did," he said simply. "You've always seen the best in me, even when I couldn't see it myself. You just needed to give me the right push." Standing there in our studio, surrounded by the art we created and the memories we shared, I realized that sometimes the best gifts aren't the ones we plan, but the ones that unfold naturally, leading us to discover new sides of ourselves and each other. The brass key had unlocked more than just a basement studio. It had unlocked a new chapter in our marriage, one filled with creativity, shared passions, and endless possibilities.